From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
All right, welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. This is your weekly podcast about consumption. On this podcast, we talk about all things consumables, like movies, beer, music, really whatever we want to get into. And with me this week is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast, Sean, who is also the authority in Michigan craft beer. And this week we have our first guest on the show. We have Jordana from Pretty Killer Podcast and Feature Creature DTF. So we're going to start with you, Jordana. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you guys?
Nah.
The silence is overwhelming.
I know, right?
I had a stupid day, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I found alcohol later, so that made things better.
All the time.
John, what have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. Just trying to get my big shoes through the door.
Big shoes. Oh, yeah. Sorry, you're making a reference to the thing. I got you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Insert clown horn.
So where do we want to start? So we usually start each week talking about what we have watched over the last week or so. I don't know, let's go with normal order. Sean, what have you been watching the last week?
Not a whole lot. I just watched yesterday the movie from 2019 with my daughter arbitrarily. I think she wanted to see it then when it came out. We decided we'd watch it tonight. It's basically...
Which movie?
Yesterday?
No. Oh, that's the name of the movie?
Yes.
Wow.
No,
okay.
Yesterday I watched a movie called Yesterday. It's basically about a guy who gets in he's a musician. He gets in an accident, and when he wakes up, everybody in the world forgets that the Beatles existed. So he's a musician. So he starts playing the Beatles songs and claims that they're his own, and hilarity ensues. So we watched that. It was okay. I'm not a big Beatles fan, but I think that I can appreciate the music. I don't listen to their music. So you kind of hear it through a different, like, oh, what if nobody ever heard these songs? It's an interesting idea.
I worked in a record store for 2 years, so I kind of grew a small hatred of the Beatles. I've come around and I'm okay with them now. They don't really bother me, but the whole like blind infatuation with them or anyone really kind of drives me nuts.
Yeah, they're pretty big.
Heard of these guys, the Beatles?
My husband loves the Beatles, so I'm in a home of Beatle mania.
There's worse things to be obsessed with. My wife loves the Beatles. I am always just like, yeah, that's fine. I can't really compare. I have horrible taste in most things, and music is certainly no exception. So
yes, I feel that. Yes.
Jordana, what have you been watching over the last week?
Today we watched we started The Dark Knight last night, finished it today, and it's like, I think one of the best Batman movies, hands down. Attachment on Shudder, and Martyrs 2008, which was extremely fucked up, but in a good way, I guess, since that's what it was trying to pull off. So
fucked up is good. What's Attachment? I don't even know what that one is.
It's two girls meet while the one girl's abroad. She brings the girl back to her mother, and it's like a possession movie without giving too much away. And it's a slow burn, but it's really good. It's a Shudder original, I believe.
I had a real chauvinistic thing I was going to say, and I held it back.
Well, please say it.
Because she said the word abroad, didn't she?
Yeah, I was going to say it's about two broads. Hey,
hey. I heard it too, and I was going to let it go, but apparently I'm just better than that, I guess. So,
well, thanks.
Yes, but it was good. I mean, I didn't see what was coming, even though it was kind of obvious. But I mean, it was one of the better ones I've watched as of late.
Is Shudder worth the month? I don't even know what it costs monthly. Was it worth the investment?
I think it is. It's $5.99, and I've last year I watched Sissy, Watcher. I'm trying to think what else was on there, but they're really good. They have a lot of good originals. Caveat is an original that is one of my newer top 10 faves.
There, who has Last Drive-In, right?
Yes, they have that, and they're adding really good. They added The Fog for 2 weeks and then got rid of it because I wanted to show my sister-in-law.
It's on Tubi.
Is it?
Is that where it went?
It was yesterday, yeah.
So it jumped from Shudder to Tubi, which is fine because I think Tubi is top notch in streaming for free. And I
love Tubi.
Yeah.
I've been watching Tubi all day. So.
Yes, they just put Fear on with Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon. Bring It On, all these fucking amazing movies. And I love that it's free.
They just put Don't Fuck in the Woods 2 on, and I can here to tell you it is somehow worse than Don't Fuck in the Woods, the first one. It's a very stupid fucking movie. And I'm going to put this out there. I don't know if people will agree with me or not. This movie is essentially going for the Night of the Creeps or the Slither thing with the sluggos that get into you one way or another.
Yeah.
And these ones are essentially like a vibrator soft sleeve with like warts painted on them to look like slugs. If you're going to have me watch a quote unquote slug go up a woman's vagina in a movie, why aren't you having a bunch of like dongs swapping around too? Isn't that fair?
Yeah,
I mean,
you'd think.
I saw a ball sack in it, but I was like, I don't feel like this is a like the female genitalia to male genitalia ratio is way off for this horrible movie. Like, but I would not recommend Don't Fuck in the Woods 1 or 2. It's the act or the movie.
Noted.
They're both fucking terrible. So,
On a super serious note, I was going to look for it afterwards because I love horrible movies. Like there's one on Plex. It's like Attack of the Killer Donuts or something like that. And I watched the trailer and I was like, oh yes. Like I want to watch it. It looks so good. The donuts are like flying and the police officers are like dodging it.
well, you can watch the entire franchise on Tubi, and it is essentially the new metal version of a shitty, like, D movie, probably. There's a lot of porn stars, so there's a lot of, like, not good looking nudity and, like, really forced sex scenes, of course. It's called Don't Fuck in the Woods.
Right.
And I guess if you want to call it a story, the story is very lacking. But it's better than some of the other stuff that I watched. I watched it's like Reanimator and like it. It's a werewolf reanimator type movie. It's fucking terrible. It's like an hour long, and the editing on this movie is like an insult to the term editing. The only thing I can give it that's even close to a compliment is the werewolf kind of looked like Man Bear Pig from South Park.
That's the only good part.
You paint amazing pictures with words, John.
That's what I'm here for. So
I love the South Park reference because my kid's been on a South Park kick. Like we've shown her the most appropriate without like, too much you can for South Park.
That has to be a really, really hand-picked list.
It is. It's like, even like the first one with the anal probe, you know what I mean? Like it's funny and it's ridiculous because she loves watching the shorts on YouTube of Kick the Baby.
Yeah.
So she's, why would they kick the baby? But then she's cracking up at it and she's singing, Kyle's mom. Hartman sings that.
Big fat bitch.
Yes. she's.
That was a movie, wasn't it?
That was in the movie, yeah.
See, that movie has male genitalia in it, but Don't Fuck in the Woods is going to slack. What the hell?
I know. I think the best male genitalia that I've seen in a movie was Piranha 3D. And when we went to go see it, the guy's dick got bitten off and then it was floating in front of our faces. It was so ridiculous, but it was awesome.
I don't know what the best would be. I'm kind of just falling back on sleepaway camp. That's just because I've watched 2 and 3 over the last week because the first 3 are all on Tubi. Just kind of landed on them.
All roads lead to Tubi.
Yes.
They do for me a lot of times, so because I have nothing better to do.
Yes.
But I don't know, do we have anything else we want to touch on that any of us have watched over the last week or so before we get into the topic that's going to just make Sean, smile and shoot confetti and blow his brains out?
Let's get into it. We do have a topic this week, John.
We do have a topic this week, and you can probably tell by that lead-in, we're talking about a fucking clown. So we're talking about Terrifier 2.
We are talking about a fucking clown.
The best clown.
So we're talking about... It's not Eric the clown. He's a good clown. But, yeah.
Shows.
So this movie came out in around Halloween, October of 2022. It's probably the biggest thing going in the horror genre right now. I would be hard-pressed to find a movie that still has, or a horror movie that still has more steam behind it. Maybe Evil Dead right now. That was pretty hot for the last month or so, but I don't think that's going to be as consistent. Oh, I think that's going to die off as soon as whatever the next thing is that comes out. We always start our topics by talking about a third-party review. So the third-party review we have for this is a 5-star review from Anonymous, that son of a bitch. This was on November 9th of 2022. And it says, low-key, when that guy's pee-pee got cut off, it made my balls hurt. So with that in mind, Sean, why don't you tell us about the plot of this movie?
God damn it, Anonymous, show yourself. So just before I start, this is available on Prime Video, on Hoopla, whatever the hell that is, and it's available to rent on a bunch of different platforms. I'm going to go with the storyline because the plot seems like it's just a little flat. The storyline of this on imdb.com is, in Miles County, Art the Clown is mysteriously revived in the morgue and kills the coroner. I think I messed this up before. Kills the coroner in the beginning of his crime wave in the Halloween night. This is a poorly written sentence. The teenagers Sienna and her brother Jonathan are hunted down by Art and his partner, the little pale girl.
You did fuck this up the same way yesterday.
I did. Well, I think I read it like 67 different times yesterday, but
it still works.
That's why editing exists, folks.
Unlike in that shitty movie with Bender.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So, Jordana, we brought you on this for this episode because you are the expert on this movie. You're by far the biggest fan of this movie that I know, let alone in this room right now. So, tell us about Terrifier. Get us kicked off, and let's have a fun conversation about this movie about a fucking clown.
Okay, so it picks up where it ended the last one, and Art is on a mission for what we don't know, but we get introduced to Little Pale Girl. We get introduced to an actual cast with a plot, Sienna and her brother, and it kind of is just Art destroying Halloween again and being born into a head coming out of a woman's vajayjay. So I mean, I don't know, so right, all right.
I don't think he's really destroying. I think he's just taking decorating to the next level.
Yes, extreme decorating. Yes.
You love his interior design philosophy.
I mean, he has a lot of strong red tones, and red's usually not my favorite color. I like cooler colors, but it's got a certain element of abstract Jackson Powell-y thing going on.
Yes, I love his candy bucket.
Je ne sais quoi.
Something like that. So, all right. So it's pretty well established at this point that Sean is not a fan of clowns. We've had this conversation several times before, but we're going to do it again. Sean, let's start with the easiest thing. What do you actually like about this movie?
Well, I kind of wanted to get into the hopes that we had, the expectations that we had prior to watching this. I don't know if we want to kind of expand on that. I have a lot that I kind of wanted to get out of this movie before watching it.
Since this is your genius idea, go ahead and start us off.
Oh, thank you.
Chime in.
I'm glad that my genius is finally acknowledged. My existence is validated. I was going to say valified. Again, editing exists for a reason, folks. So I'm hoping Terrifier 2...
I try to validate you every single day. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm hoping Terrifier 2 is like a refinement of Terrifier 1. I think of a lot of games, video games in particular, like the first game's always kind of the rough version. And hopefully by the time we iterate on it, it starts to refine the idea down. We think about movies. Most people think the best Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back, right? It's the second movie of the trilogy, or the original trilogy, I guess. I was just kind of hoping that this one would be, and I said it a lot in the first episode, the first Terrifier episode, about this being kind of edgelordy. And I was hoping that this would get a little bit more character development and a little bit less of that shock for shock's sake. I mean, I'm all into that too. And I guess that leads me into your question about what I did like about this movie. And what I did like is I thought that this movie was an awesome display of practical effects. I don't think there's a second that I could distinguish that was like a digital effect. It wasn't Sharkula. We didn't see a lot of like digital blood flying on the screen. Or what was the movie we talked about like a couple weeks ago that was like digital effect? Oh, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Oh, God.
It's like there's next to no practical effects in that movie because it's all just, it looks, you could tell it's digital. And with this, it was like,
from when they put Winnie the Pooh on stilts for no apparent reason.
He got real mad. That goddamn fucking bear. But yeah, I mean, I really like that. I thought the pacing of this movie, the two things that I really enjoyed were the special effects or the practical effects. And I thought the pacing up until a point was really well done.
I don't think there's a horror fan on the planet that will tell you that the effects were amazing in this unless they were just unable to watch it. And I've heard that. I'm sure we've all heard that story about people throwing up in a theater. And I don't think I buy that. I don't know who walks into a movie called Terrifier 2, one, not realizing that this is a second of something, so that you probably have an idea of what's going on. And two, I honestly don't feel like this one is, as far as like just the gore and what happens in this one, I don't think it goes as intense as the first one does.
Yeah.
Just because the signature scene in the first one is so grotesque. Like, it's obviously a very sensitive area that we see attacked. And you don't really have that in this one, which isn't necessarily bad. But again, I don't think there's anything objectively worse in this one than the first one. So,
well, you're talking about the chainsaw scene with the girl, right? Being strung up.
Yeah.
It was a hacksaw, but yes.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. We had kind of a similar thing with the bedroom scene with the flank, like the skin, like the hand being ripped in half. I just don't understand how the mechanics of that would work realistically.
Yeah.
Well, it's just
insert eye roll here.
It's just like string cheese. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's how it works here. I do some velodrome shit with my hands and it splits open, no big deal.
Exactly. Jordana, what did you go into this movie wanting to get out of it? So you're again, coming from the point of view of the hardcore fan of this, what did you want to see out of Terrifier 2 prior to?
So, just full disclosure, I loved Terrifier, the first one. I thought it was really, really well done. That one kind of had like that 80s throwback feel for me too, just like the way it was shot. And I liked that there was no plot and you kind of just didn't really know what was going on. And he was introduced. This one, I had a feeling it was going to be more refined. Like there was going to be an actual somewhat plot to it. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed, like Sean said, I enjoyed the pacing because it didn't feel like 2 hours and 20 minutes until, like you said, the very end. The effects were chef's kiss. They were fucking amazing. And I don't know. I liked, as much as you can't, I don't think you can pull so much from art. I mean, I know we're going to get like a backstory, but I really liked his humor. And I liked the way that his mannerisms and the way that you can kind of like feel like he was in a conversation, even though he really didn't speak. Like the Halloween store scene with the dude at the register. But I loved it. So I think
the other prop I have to give it is that as much as I want to beat Art with his own shoe into oblivion, like into hamburger meat.
Yeah.
With all the prosthetics on his face, like all the makeup, it is a super expressive character. Like he makes so much of the emotion of Art is expressed through his face because he doesn't talk.
Yes.
But on the on the other side of the coin, I think Little Pale Girl, because what else could you want from a movie with a clown is two clowns, right? That character, like I know it's the actor's a child.
Yeah.
So I got to give him some slack for that. But every time that thing showed up, that's what I said. That thing showed up on screen. I was like, oh my God, the mouthpiece, like the teeth just didn't seem like it fit in her mouth.
Yeah.
I just wanted that thing to go away. Like it's not even that it's a clown. It's just, it was an annoying for me. I thought it was an annoying character that I could give or take. Like it, well, probably give, I guess. Yeah. Take, I don't know, whatever I would do on that one. Just get it off the screen. Like,
whichever one ends up without having
with only one clown.
Me. It was weird to see her like and how she was introduced in the laundromat. Like I know that a lot of people were asking like, what did she drop out of herself? Like, was that shit? Was it like the
yeah.
Was it the black evil that people think in theory is what art is made out of? You know what I mean? Like, is that, I don't know. And then there was no real explanation on who she was, but then there was like these screenshots of like a magazine clipping. And I wish that I had it right now to read it to you guys, but it had like these details that kind of pertain to the story.
Well, she was a victim at the carnival,
she's
right?
She's the first victim of Arts, supposedly.
And there was something else in it and I wish I would have been prepared and had it, but there is a piece in it that you're like, you didn't really see in other, like maybe it was stopped in the movie and zoomed in on, but it was kind of important. But I mean, I thought she was like a fun side kick, I guess you could say. But the one scene that I loved of hers was the van scene when Jonathan's walking down the street and she's in the van and her eyes started to glow. It was like that yellow green because I'm terrified of eyes. Like if you had a dark room and just like white eyes, I would
don't have eyes. You're scaring me. I thought that was just some of Barry Gordy's Last Dragon, like the glow rubbing off on those guys when the eyes would glow up.
I thought it was cat people.
Sure enough.
Yeah. So that was cool, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what comes of her character. Hopefully in 3. I hope there's a lot that I'm hoping for in 3.
When I was going into this one, so I was kind of in the middle, like between Sean, who hated it, and Jordana, who loved it. I was kind of lukewarm on the first one. I found things that I really enjoyed and found funny out of the first one, like the fact that he uses a gun. I thought to be really humorous. The scene where he's doing the Silence of the Lambs talk with the like chest thing and like freaking out, I thought I laughed at. I might have had some influence to make me laugh more at it when I saw it, but I found it funny at the time.
Mm-hmm.
When I went into this one, I wanted to. I knew going into it that it was about a 2.5 hour movie. So my initial thought was, how the fuck is this going to work? Like, what is going to make a 2.5 hour horror movie, let alone Art the Clown movie? How is that going to not make me want to jump off of a building? And that's not anything against Art or any one movie. I don't like long movies. I have a short attention span. I think for the most part, they delivered on that, although I do have issues with the pacing, which that will be something we can go into more later. But the first time I watched it, it didn't bother me. It seemed like it just kind of towed along relatively well. The second time I watched it, I really kind of noticed a lot of stuff that I was like, God, this really could be a 2 hour and 50-minute type movie as opposed to 2.5 hour movie, essentially. Well, of course, I wanted to see how they would try to one-up themselves. And as I mentioned, I don't think this movie is necessarily any worse than the first one as far as what's actually depicted in the movie, but there's certainly a lot more of it. So they, if nothing else, they top themselves just on sheer volume. So, good job on that. I love this movie is practical effects, not only because they look good, but for the reason that we fell in love with practical effects to begin with, because computer generated effects are expensive. Practical effects are supposed to be inexpensive. And that's why this movie is shot, or a part of why this movie is shot the way it is. I'm sure now, like whenever we get Terrifier 3, if he wants to do like big budget, like I say big budget for him, like a couple $1 million of whatever, I can't imagine he's going to have a hard time getting money to make the third movie, but I kind of hope he sticks to the roots and just stays with this super low budget, like indie feel, whether it's an indie movie or not.
And we should mention that this mythical him is Damien Leone, whose name is now appearing above Terrifier in the title screen. Like, I think first one was just Terrifier, and now it's Damien Leone. Is he related to Sergio? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. But anyways, yeah, I mean, his name shows up above Terrifier 2 now. So it's like, hey, I made it to the big time, Ma. Look at me.
Yeah.
I'm on the screen now. So yeah, just wanted
Don't
to
watch the movie, but look at the title screen.
Right.
So.
He was like hanging out with Mike Flanagan, which, I mean, I like Mike Flanagan, and I not to go like off topic, but I loved Midnight Mass, and I loved like his take on scary stuff. So I think them as a team could potentially be epic, hopefully. And I'm with you, John, about hopefully he doesn't sell out and stays on track of what he's been doing.
Well, I think it'd be naive to think he wouldn't have some kind of something in the future.
Yeah.
Whether it's a different slasher movie or a monster, whatever the fuck he wants to do. Like, I think it'd be crazy to think he wouldn't, if he has the opportunity to do a bigger budget movie. And I mean, that's just going to pay, like, get your money to, like, if you can make $10 million making a fucking movie, make it. And I'm not going to judge him for that. But as far as for this particular franchise, I hope he sticks with what's working on it. Because I think I don't think that's a hard sell to say that that's the biggest reason why Terrifier has the fan base that it does, is the effects in this movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of people just like, and not speaking for everyone, but I think, we've had so many takes on horror. You know what I mean? Like, we've had newer types of horror. I think this kind of like throwback to just like a slasher with having like, simple, not simple, but like the practical effects, an easy storyline to kind of go along with it. And it's not too much thought going into it. I think. Well,
easy for now. I kind of wonder where it's going to go, but easy for now.
Right. And like, the what is going on with Sienna and what the semblance, the wings, what they mean. You know what I mean? Because everyone was like, oh, this and that. And then he's like, well, it's more religious. And it's like, well, what the fuck?
I don't think it's religious. I read a fan theory, like when we were getting ready to do this episode, that, you know what, I'm going to bring this later because we haven't even talked about like Sienna and Jonathan and everything that happens in this movie yet. So I'll remind me to do this near the tail end of this because I'd be interested. Sean, I don't think you'll care, but I'd be interested to see what Jordana you think about this.
Definitely. I found the article too. Do you want me to wait to read it, or do you want me to read it?
No, let's go ahead and do that. So
okay. So like you said, though, it kind of like just touched on her being, part of 10-year-old Emily Crane was last seen alive, cheerfully roaming the carnival grounds earlier Friday evening. As the night progressed and the attractions closed, family members grew concerned as to her whereabouts. Several carnival goers worked alongside family and friends to search for the young girl, which came to an end shortly after it began. They found Crane's lifeless, mangled body was discovered in a makeup trailer just outside the main event ground. So this is the part that's highlighted. Crane was the daughter of two prominent circus performers whose family also includes a long line of very popular, well-respected circus acts, mimes, and similar talents. And that was highlighted in red. I don't know if you guys can see that, but having that be emphasized, it makes me wonder, like, was she related somehow? Is it all like tied in like relation, like with them and Sienna? Because I know people are having like an Art Sienna, connection. Is that her dad?
Yeah, I kind of want to get into that because, in the movie, they mention this storyline, and this is kind of a con for me. Well, not kind of. This is like one of the cons for me, besides it being a movie about two clowns. Let me reiterate, a movie about two clowns, is that they go into this story about Sienna and Jonathan's dad, and they kind of allude to it later in the movie that he went off the rails. He kind of went crazy. He's an artist. I don't know if he's like a comic artist or whatever, but Sienna goes to this Halloween party dressed as a character that her father drew, and they kind of reference this whole Art the Clown thing. And in the sketchbook that, I don't know, it's like nobody really cares about the sketchbook until they care about it. And Art the Clown's picture is in it. They kind of allude to something with that, and they say that he went crazy and he took his car and drove it into a transformer and burned to death. That's like near the end of the movie that they give this to us, but they kind of just drop the story there. Like, they don't tell you what the father's relationship to Art is. And I was really expecting, I think in my notes I wrote, when are we going to find out that Art the Clown is Sienna's dad? Like he transformed.
That's the theory that's exactly where I was going to go with that fan theory that I read, but it kind of makes sense because it ties together why she can, I don't know if kill him is the right word, but at least shut him down temporarily. Why she can regenerate the same way that he kind of maybe did, It makes sense, and it ties them together, and it kind of explains. It doesn't answer a ton of things. Like, this episode is all over the fucking rails, but that's fine. It doesn't answer the question, like, why do some of Art's victims like come back to life and become subservient to him, I guess.
Yeah.
Why some stay dead, or just because I don't know if you have to be mutilated to a certain point, or if there's like, I'd like to see how or what the reasoning is as to who becomes reanimated and who actually stays dead. And that's never even remotely hinted at. It just seems kind of random, like, well, here you go. Like, I'm pretty sure if you have your face bit off and you're just left bleeding out in the middle of like an alley, you're not surviving that, more than likely.
Yeah, because she's been that one you're talking about, the girl with like the one eye.
Dickie or whatever from the first movie.
Yeah, she's been in it since the first one. And it's like,
right.
And then she has such a important role at the end, other than Chris Jericho.
I have to say, when I saw Chris Jericho's name show up in the opening credits, I audibly groaned to myself. Oh God, Chris Jericho.
3 clowns.
I didn't connect the dots on that, but I'm seeing it now.
Yes.
We could have saved this for WrestleMania month where we're doing our wrestler movies, but
yeah,
we have too many other great movies to talk about for that.
Sure. Hulk Hogan has an acting career. So.
But you're right about, like, there has to be something connecting them, because there are people that are clearly still alive that have survived and have some tie to him, and people like Sienna getting stabbed and killed 2 times, you know what I mean, before regenerating. And it's just, I hope that what he comes up with, because I'm sure he already has an idea, because he has 3 and 4. I think he even said that he could possibly write another one, that it makes some sort of sense.
Can we talk about this? Like, how difficult is it to these scripts aren't like Schindler's List, it's not these aren't like the greatest stories ever told. So I could come up with 3 and 4 right now too. I mean, it might not be great, but I could come up with it if I had to.
You totally could.
Maybe great is all subjective though. I mean,
this will be like a fork. It'll be like a fork in the road. It'll be Terrifier like 3A or something. And I'll just come up with some other clown where he gets like put in a wood chipper. And
I was going to say your Terrifier would be like the first 2 minutes. You show up with like a rake or something, beat the shit out of Art, throw him in a wood chipper, and then done. Credits.
Yeah.
So.
I want to do the Chucky idea that John had. Just hang him and put him in a closet and close the door.
I also said I would duct tape him to a telephone pole. So.
See, that's funny, but I love Art. I think he's like, I don't know. I love him.
Jordana, what are you lukewarm on with this, or what are you kind of in the middle with? Do you have any mixed opinions on this movie?
Yeah, I didn't understand the lightning sword at the end. I remember people because we had a pretty packed, I saw it in theaters when it was on the first release, which was awesome though, to see that. And when that came on, a lot of people were like, you could hear, and laughing. And my husband, what the fuck? So it didn't really do too much for me. And it kind of left me annoyed. Like, why are we adding this in? Because we've already had 20 minutes of her falling in 7 pits and coming back up and stabbing him. And, you know, I was kind of at my wit's end with the whole thing. And then that happened. And I'm like, oh shit. Well, like, what are we getting into now?
Kind of pushes the movie into like superhero territory
fantasy
in a weird way.
I mean, more so.
Yeah.
And not to be like that, because obviously I want this movie to succeed because I love the first, I mean, 3, if you want to say 3. I don't want that. I want it to stay like slasher, and I want it to stay somewhat in the realms of like not supernatural and not fantasy, because I think that's a weird combination for me.
I'm okay with the art being supernatural.
Yes.
I kind of don't want Sienna to be supernatural, which it seems like is where Jervy, it seems like her and Jonathan are both going to have some kind of brand new powers that they're going to go, you know, wave wands at art or something and make them dippity do away. But
Grand doodah, dippity doo. Again, you paint beautiful pictures with words, John.
Yes.
But I get where you're going with that. Like, it's for me, like not being really attached, like having a big attachment to the series. I'm just kind of along for the ride. Like, okay, let's see what happens. But if I looked at it from the perspective, like, okay, well, I love whatever other film series, I would probably be annoyed as shit. And imagine if they pulled this shit in at the end of Halloween Ends, if Corey had some golden lightsaber or something like that. You think people are pissed now with what happened? Like, if he just all of a sudden started force choking people like Jamie or something, I would love to hear the reaction. But
I think those are copyrighted. All those things that you just said are trademarked. But I think the difference is with Halloween,
laser sword and air choke,
laser sword. Yeah, exactly. I think the difference with something like, and I hate myself for being devil's advocate on this, but like Halloween has had all this lore behind it, whereas Terrifier, if we're just going off,
in fairness, Halloween's had as many fuck ups as they've had hits. And I love that franchise, and I love the bad movies in that franchise.
But we didn't have any laser swords
yet.
Well, there you go. But Terrifier, we have 2 main like movies, you know, that are actually named Terrifier. So if they're going to introduce that shit, this may as well be the time to do it, I guess. And again, I hate myself for saying that, but
you're not wrong, but you're also not right.
But if you look at it, though,
I'm told that every day.
The way that I thought of these 2 movies, and it's not like I'm trying to like make them the same, but if you look at it, it's kind of parallel. Like, you have Damien Leone come out with the first one, John Carpenter, small budget indie films, and look at like how they were received. You know what I mean? Like, granted, Halloween had more of a positive reaction than Terrifier did, but
Halloween had an actual release. Terrifier was as underground gets for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden kind of like had some buzz. It wasn't even like that much buzz, but people like heard of it. And it's a really bad analogy, but I still think like in a slasher term, like you have Michael Myers and he's iconic. I feel like even the momentum of Terrifier now, I think art's pretty big in the slasher community and like a new fave.
I don't think it's debatable. He's the current slasher icon.
Yeah.
The current slasher clown that everyone wants to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's debatable. I think if you were, I don't know how you would throw out, but random names, but you throw he's in that same conversation now with Michael and Jason and Freddy and little shithead Chucky and all of them. Like unfortunately, I don't think for better or worse, I think he is. I mean, if you just kind of troll around horror conversations, you still have your people that refuse to like believe that Michael Myers can do anything wrong. You still have your people that refuse to think that it's like people have their little camps and they refuse to see the flaws in the franchises that they love.
Yeah.
And then here comes Art and he's just murdering everything. So.
Literally. But like I would pick, this is going to be blasphemous, but I will say it now. I would pick Art over Freddy. Like, I'm not a huge Freddy fan to begin with because I was scared of the franchise. Well, what?
No, I'm laughing at Sean's reaction right now.
For me, like Freddy was scary to the point where I didn't watch him. Like I watched Jason and I watched Michael and Chucky. And then when I like got old enough and realized that Freddy, whatever, it's just whatever. He's like comical and he's not scary to me. And I always feel like I never go to his movies when I'll go Halloween, then I'll go Friday the 13th, then I'll go, Hellraiser, Child's Play. I never pick Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Sean, if looks could kill. But like, if I had to do
that's surprising to me.
You think it is?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't really watch them past number 3. I watch 1 here and there. I watch 3 here about as often as I watch 1.
Yeah.
And if 2's on or like accessible, I'll probably watch it. But once you get past 3, that series always has its moments where it's again, the effects or the comedy would make you say, okay, that was at least worth giving a watch. It's a far cry from the worst thing that I've watched this afternoon, let alone in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But I've said it numerous times now. I think Freddy's the most overrated of all the iconic characters that we have in this genre.
Yeah. But
I think
some people like think he's the best, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of backlash after people listen to this, but
fuck them.
I mean, whatever. It's my opinion.
You overestimate how many people listen to this.
Sean's just going to look at me differently now and be like, oh God. But like, I would totally pick Art over Freddy.
Well, I just like, for me, and not to get into this conversation totally off topic, but to get into it a little bit, like I think of Jason and Michael are kind of, I think of Jason first. I mean, that's the slasher icon for me. If we're talking like a Mount Rushmore, it's always Jason, Michael, interchangeable. And then Freddy's like right after. Yeah. Or sometimes Freddy surpasses Michael Myers. But that would be like, I have a hard time even, I don't know, perceiving or whatever, like comprehending that Art the Clown, a motherfucking clown that doesn't say shit. I mean, I guess none of them say shit. Freddy talks. That's what Freddy has. Freddy's got that it factor because he can talk.
But he's got writers. But
this movie is called the Terrifier, not the Terrifier, because that makes me sound even older than I really am. But Terrifier, it's not terrifying. Like maybe if I was younger and I saw this and I this had to have maybe hit me in like a sweet spot. Yeah. Age range wise. Yeah. But Freddy, Michael, and Jason are like, that was in the era for me. And that was shit that like, freaked me out. But I don't see kids in my neighborhood walking around in costumes that are Freddy, Michael. I mean, I'm sorry, I see them, but I've not seen clowns, thankfully. Oh my God. Wait,
it's going to happen because
don't say that. Come on.
I think you got a couple years, but it's going to happen because you're going to have kids who are 16 to, let's be more realistic. You're going to have kids who are 14 to 18 right now who knock up their girlfriend and think it's cute to dress their kid up like Art the Clown.
That says a lot.
Okay. I mean, like my kid, she loves to draw him and she thinks he's like
art. Really?
It's literally art.
No, I'm saying like Art the Clown.
Yeah.
No shit.
Right.
Oh my God. What have we, we got global warming to already think about. Now we have Art the Clown. Which one's worse? I don't know.
Well, we know what the winner is for you, Art the Clown. But I don't know. I think like the first scene or when you first see him in the pizza scene, when he's in the pizza shop and he's doing like the faces, and then you look over and he's sitting there with his teeth like exposed and his eyes are super white and he's just staring like.
And I'm like this.
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
You
fucking clown.
That scared me because I just told you guys I'm scared of eyes. So when his eyes were like super white and he had those fucking blood teeth and you don't even know what the hell he's doing, like that was scary to me. Don't make fun of me.
See, I laugh at him. I laugh at him when he does that. Like, my favorite thing that Art does is whenever someone fights back and kicks him in the face or whatever, and he just has this really disgruntled, like, pissed off look, like, what the hell just happened? Yeah. I'm Art the Clown. Like, did someone really just hit me? Like,
really? Damn. Did that just happen?
Like, and I think, Sean, you had mentioned it, but that is one of the biggest selling points of this movie is how well David Howard Thornton is able to express himself through this mute clown, like just with facial expressions and the way they use his hands and obviously the way he uses weapons and shit like that too. But his facial expressions alone, I mean, you mentioned the scene in the costume shop, just the goofy looks he's making when he's putting on these random glasses.
I love that part.
You can tell he's clearly just fucking with this person, but it works perfectly. Mm-hmm. We haven't got to it yet, but we get to the mashed potato scene and he has this weird like chef's kiss and he's totally like freaking out this, kid. It's clearly 7-year-old kid. And
yeah. Yep. Little Jonathan, the preschooler.
Yeah.
And just DHT to borrow from John's playbook, David Howard Thornton. If you see him out of the makeup, it's you would never think that this is the guy.
No.
In the costume.
I can't see him not look like Art. Whenever I see him, I'm like, no, that's fucking Art.
I saw him up next to other people in the movie and I thought like, does this guy wear like little tiny stilts? Because he is so lanky and long, but when you see him as a person, like out of the makeup, he doesn't look like that.
I wanted to ask. Yeah. So is that camera tricks or do they actually have him on stilts or because there's scenes where he looks physically imposing in this movie compared to the first.
He just looks so long.
Yeah.
And I think,
Yeah.
I don't think that it is. I mean, I think it's him. I mean, again, I can't believe I'm the one that's saying this, but he packs a hell of a performance as this character and in this movie. Like he obviously carries the movie. Sienna's like a big high point of the character. Jonathan, of course, because a 7-year-old being able to do a 2-year-old being able to do any of this stuff is absolutely amazing. But, you know, without art, obviously without DHT, I don't know how this movie could, like another actor in this role, I couldn't even picture it. Like this is Robert Englund. Like as far as we go back to Freddy, like this is the Robert Englund role. Like I can't. Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy doesn't do it for me, but you bring in Robert Englund.
Who does though? Jeff Goldblum is art.
I could. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
All right. He's long, but that's the length. Like we get those long arms, long legs.
All of a sudden, Art is very, very talkative and has weird pauses in every sentence.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. Yes.
I think it would be fantastic.
Apartments.com.
Or Danny Trejo as Art. Danny Trejo as Art the Clown.
Hey.
He'd have to show his chest though with the tattoo. That's a prerequisite.
Did you know that the guy that played Art in All Hallows Eve wasn't David Howard Thornton?
Yes.
Yes, and it's very weird because he looks very like mimish. He
doesn't have the chin prosthetic in that yet either, does he?
No, it's just like his face painted white, and he looks just very like mimey. Yeah,
I still haven't watched All Hallows Eve, and I don't really feel like I need to at this point, but I'm sure I'll fall into it at some time.
It's a really good anthology. Like aside from Art, because I watched it not even knowing anything about Art the Clown, it's just a really good anthology.
Did you watch it before Terrifier came out?
I did. Yeah.
So probably makes a difference with it.
Yeah. And I didn't like piece it together. I didn't know that it was like a package deal. So I was just like going on Tubi watching random horror movies, and I watched that one, and I really liked it because the ending was very Damien, let's say. I won't spoil it, but it was very shock value, which I loved. And then Terrifier.
So we haven't talked about Lauren LaVera yet, which we mentioned, or I've mentioned this in prior conversations, whether they made it to air or they didn't. I think she's the strongest part of this movie. Sienna, the character, is one. I think she's a likable character. She's someone that you actually can find yourself rooting for and pulling for. The biggest problem I had with the first movie is even if I wanted to like Tara or one chick whose name I can't remember or Vicky, I really had no reason to, because it just felt like a number for whenever Art was going to catch up to him. So this character, Sienna, even before we realize she's, kind of Frankenstein-y, she gives Art a challenge. She does not, like, you do go through the majority of this movie, one, not knowing if she's going to survive the movie, but two, feeling like she actually has a chance to come out on top of this. And I think that's one of the hugest things that they added to this movie that was terribly missing in the first movie.
Agreed. I thought she was a great, I don't dare say final girl, because I think that she's going to be in the storyline hopefully for a while, but I think she was a really strong.
I think they're writing her character to be something more than a final girl, honestly.
Same. And I love that, because I think that she has the potential to carry that. And as much as Jonathan was a little dickhead that no one liked, and his mom like freaked on him all the time. And yes, I loved Barb. I thought the mom was the perfect mom. Like she's
my favorite character in the entire
She's the
franchise.
She's the embodiment of Sean in this movie.
I was going to say, when you said the embodiment, I was going to say the embodiment of me.
Yeah. And I loved it. I thought she was such it's an honest how like a parent is. You know what I mean? Like it's the first time you've seen one that's like, what the hell's wrong with him? Get that fuck upstairs. Like it's a total parent. And I love that it was so real, and sucks what happened to her. But anyway, I thought Jonathan, it sucks, but it was my favorite kill. So I can't say that either. But I thought Jonathan was he was decent. Like I
like the actor more than I like the character.
For a 2-year-old, for a 6-month-old, Jonathan was great.
I mean, he did half this role while in utero. So straight
out the womb, Jonathan represent.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind her friends. I thought her friends were kind of like not super annoying. I really liked the casting in this one. I mean, as well good as you can get in it, I think it was decent.
I mean, Brooke's about as shitty a friend as you could have, but the rest of them were fine. So.
Right. Yes.
As far as casting goes, when you can see somebody that's supposed to be playing a teenager have more gray hair than I do, that's not great. But I mean, I thought as an ensemble, cast of friends, they fill those archetypes.
I am so glad that you said that because I noticed that and I'm like, how the fuck does a high schooler have gray hair? I saw that and I'm like, it doesn't even look like highlights. It's like, great.
How much does a box of dye cost? I mean, come on.
And like, how do you not break it to her? Be like, hey, do you think we can
see that?
We're going to scalp you. We're going to do all this stuff. But do you think you could like dye those gray hairs?
The casting though works because the characters that you're supposed like. One of the things I have a problem with in a lot of modern horror movies is I hate all the characters that are in like I find them all to be just utterly fucking trash human beings that are obnoxious. Bodies is the perfect example of this. Like, especially when the movie hits a certain point where if you've seen it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Just fucking kill everyone. Please get this movie over with a pile of corpses. I hate it.
Just do us a favor and just kill them all. Like no survivors. Just do it.
This movie really, like, I didn't hate any of the characters that were in it. Like, all of them were different degrees of likable, but they were all likable to the point where they needed to be for this kind of movie to carry what plot they tried to give you to where it needed to go. There's people in it that are horrible human beings. Like, generally giving your friend a date rape drug is not cool without them knowing it. They know it, fine, but
consent.
you should be aware of it. You know, shit like that is questionable, but it's kind of typical horror movie tropes. You have to have things happen. The casting in this works really well, if nothing else, because I didn't hate anyone in the movie. So.
Agreed.
I think as far as the group of friends, I'd have to agree. And, you know, I've already, against better judgment, sung the praises of DHT, but like going back.
I'm saying I don't hate anyone that you're not supposed to hate.
Yeah. Okay. Going back and talking about, you know, Freddy, Jason, Michael, you know, you start to root for those characters a little bit. I think that's part of the mystique of it. And for me, like, I can't ever find myself rooting for Art the Clown. Like, I
was rooting for Jason to show up in this movie. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, yeah, me too. So when are we going to see the Art versus Jason?
You honestly, though, that might not be like far off. You never know. Nowadays, we're going to get like a crossover.
Get Blumhouse on it.
Yes.
I don't even know who owns the rights to either of these characters, but I highly doubt that it happens. I mean, if we can't get a Jason movie, period, and now we have some A24 TV show coming out, I can't imagine that he's going to go have a wrestling match with Art the Clown in the middle of whatever city this takes place in.
But what did Friday the 13th and Jason do to deserve A24 and a TV series? Like, it just sounds horrible to me.
Is Roby coming back? That's all I want to know.
Pre-kill TV series from A24. I'm gonna watch it because I'm an idiot, but I don't have high expectations at all. So anyway, I digress. Mixed things. So Jordana, you did give mixed things on. Sean, did you give mixed things on this movie?
No.
Sean, what are you feeling mixed about on this movie? Do you have anything that you're kind of in the middle of?
No, I mean, it's pretty black and white for me. I have things that I liked. I'll give it that. I mean, I guess it's a shade of gray, but things that I liked, things that I didn't like. Things that I liked, again, special effects, pacing, DHT's performance. I got to add that. Fucking David Howard Thornton. That's a name I'm going to have to remember now because I'm only going to remember DHT, but then I have so many, like, basically everything else gets pushed into that.
I told you we could go meet him next month.
Oh my God.
The little pale girl's going to be there too now. You can meet both of them.
Do it and I'll pay for like my ticket and just FaceTime me in and I'll be like, hi.
I don't think you would need to pay for that. I would just be like, I'm not here for me. Here, talk to her. So I'm going to go look at these Friday the 13th shits in the back. Yeah. So for me, as far as like mixed stuff on this, I feel mixed about the runtime. I do agree with both of you that initially the runtime didn't feel that bad. It felt kind of paced out. I later found out that Damien Leone is the editor of this movie also. And I really, really feel like he needs to hire a fucking editor going forward.
Another advocate for editing.
I understand this is a fan-funded film, but this feels like a director's cut. And the more I watch it, it's how many fucking scenes do we need where it's just a close-up on Art's face as some shit's flying in the background, whether that is flesh or chains or whip, whatever the fuck he has in that particular moment. As much as I like the character of Sienna and how they actually took the time to flesh out these characters, there's a lot of scenes where they're just kind of standing around and they tried to flesh out the characters. You're giving me that look like I'm wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, did they?
No.
Did they?
Not really, but they made you like the character. They gave you time to like sort of get to know him enough to like.
It's no Evil Dead Rise, but
yeah, but they did that that's a whole. We already had that conversation. It's a whole different thing. Anyway, there's a lot of the scenes where art isn't on the screen, where great, art's on the screen, we're trying to get something else in the story, but at the same time, edit that shit down and give me the 1 minute scene that I need, as opposed to the 3 minute scene with 1 minute of information there. That's how you get this down to a tighter 50, maybe even 2 hours, as opposed to what we got. Yeah. I think it would have helped.
What do you think an ideal runtime? So you think like 150 would be, I mean, I'm sure ideal, for me, perfect world would be an hour and a half.
Yeah. For me, an hour and a half. I think if you're going to try to keep the same, I hesitate to say storyline, but same progression of the story in this, I think you could probably do it in about 145, 150, and it would probably be tighter and arguably even a better movie.
Agreed. Like, we watched the Mario movie, and that was an hour and like 28 minutes, and it was perfect. And I hate to compare, I'm not comparing it, but like we got so much out of that time. So whoever made that was perfect. I mean, it was just an hour and a half is a perfect runtime. You know what I mean? And I think that with this one, if they cut out the 4 times they came back at the end and just did like the funhouse scene where they're running around and had like one final showdown and then cut to the end scene, I think that would have been really good without having the continual fucking fights. Like,
I mean, the third act runs for like 40 minutes or something like that. It's a long, third act. And again, if you're a fan of Art the Clown, it's probably the best 40 minutes of your year because it's just chaos and carnage. And we all like that. But if you would prefer to have a chunk of your day back, or you could get your clown entertainment compressed a little bit more, tighten it up. I appreciate the gore and I appreciate giving me the director's cut, but I would have been fine with theatrical at the same time for this.
I agree. I as much as I love it, I totally agree. Like, I love how it, from the jump, it started with the gore, and I think that was good. And then, yes, the third act is supposed to be like the best one, but I think that I would have been happy with everything that happened in between. Give me something and then just give me like a little cliffhanger and call it a day. I would have been.
I would rather see it be a little bit more concise and to the point and not get like the added storyline. I would rather have no storyline and have it be more to the point than have the story that really doesn't. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't ever go anywhere. We get like some of it. They kind of spoon feed us a little bit of it, but then they just make it. And I wish that if they're going to have the storyline and give you some information rather than give you some and then withhold it, I would make it an hour and a half. Don't include any story art. It's just the continuing adventures of Art the Clown. Have a separate like side story that's like story.
Yeah.
And art just kind of shows up for a little bit of it. But this is, I think you kind of lose both sides. You lose both crowds. You lose the people that are into art and you lose the people that want to see the story, because you get a whole lot of art, but you don't get a whole lot of story, and they just kind of like forget about it. I mean, that's like a big gripe that I have for the story itself and for the pacing. We get so much pacing. So it moves along so well. And then that last confrontation is so long.
Yes. And you're just like, who's going to die? Like, what's happening? And then someone actually taps out, which is Art, and the little girl comes in, and then, you know what I mean? Like, so then it's now, okay, now we're back into the motion of where it's going to pick up in the next one. And are we going to get the same 2-hour runtime with a little bit of the story, and then it's going to be something more? You know what I mean? Like, it's exciting, and it's kind of concerning at the same time for me, because I'm pumped. I want more art, but I don't want it to be like you just said. I don't want it to be lost in the ether. Like, either be one thing or do the job of what you're trying to do.
Well, and to use Sean's comparison of Evil Dead Rise, and I don't want to go on too much of a tangent on that, the amount of character building that movie crams in the first 15, 20 minutes or so is a fucking masterclass on how to start a story. I mean, in the first 20-ish minutes of that movie, you're introduced to all like 5 of our main characters, several side characters, and you have just enough to know who these people are, what kind of makes them who they are, and why, when they show up again later in the movie, whether they're dead or not, why they're relevant and doing exactly what they're doing at any given moment in the movie. However any of us feel about the rest of that movie, and I think we all like it more than we dislike it, but that first 20 minutes does such a good job of just telling you what you need to know, but still moving shit along perfectly. And there's this movie, certainly, but there's a ton of movies I could take notes on.
Absolutely.
So Sean's favorite part of the show. Sean, what do you hate about this movie?
I think it starts and almost ends with Art. I mean, he's a clown. I mean, it's not no fault of Art's. again, DHT, thumbs up, like awesome job in conveying the emotion and all the like antagonistic, all the like the things that piss you off, at least for me, like the things that piss me off, he does great. Like he is a clown, number one, that pisses me off. Number two, all the faces and stuff, like just if, you know, take the shoe, the heel of the clown shoe and just bash the shit out of him with it. But the kind of like, I mean, I love as much as I love the practical effects, the edgelordiness of it all, it still kind of carries through for me. Like that's kind of, I think it's kind of sometimes shock for shock's sake. You know, we don't have to go into so much of this. I feel like such a hypocrite. Like we don't have to go into so much of like, yeah, I art like slices and dices these people. Like they just, okay, they're killed. But then again, like, you know, we have the bleach, we have the salt like that. We didn't even get into that. And that's a whole nother, we could probably talk for another 20 minutes just about that. But that, and it just feels so drawn out. Not only did I feel like this was an exercise in torturing these characters, like Sienna's friends and the parents, I guess, to that same effect, but it gets so drawn out, and some of the people, the torturing of these people is so drawn out. Just the gore porn of it all, kind of. I feel like the director is trying to Damien Leone is trying to torture us at the same time. Like it's just so drawn out. Like, oh yeah, the girl in the bedroom scene, one of Sienna's friends is like, you know, cuts across her back and blood's like flying all over the place, cuts across the front, rips part of her face off, does this, does that, does the other thing. The mom comes home. Then the mom has to like relive it all. And the mom's head is presented as a candy bowl for Halloween, right? With candy. And the kids are like, oh, it's so sticky. That's a funny scene. Admittedly, like, again, devil's advocate. That's a funny scene. But does it have to, I guess that's not devil's advocate, but does it have to be like, do we have to see each individual kid oh, it's so sticky. Oh, I did think it was funny when the football player kid took another piece and he like slaps his hand. He's like, you know, no, one piece. You could lose a few pounds. 2.5-month-old kid on John's scale. But just that kind of stuff. It's so sadistic. It's like it's horror. It's a slasher movie. It's sadistic, right? But it's almost too much for me.
Jordana, is there anything that you hate? I know this is probably a loaded question, but is there anything that you hate about this movie, or anything that you would call a negative?
I mean, I love the movie. I feel like a big negative is just like not getting any information of what's going on and getting like that tease. Because just for me, who was like, I loved the first one and being invested in this one, I just feel like it's annoying that, you know, we had such a long movie and we still didn't get much of anything. And then I didn't care for the sword. That's the one thing I will say. I really just did not like the thought of like what that's going to, you know, resemble, like what it's the symbolism of it. I was just like, I could do without that, because I just don't want it to turn that way. Like when I watched Halloween Kills and they were talking about it going supernatural, that made me want to barf in my mouth, because I just don't think of
that made you Art the Clown. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't want that. Like Michael Myers is not supernatural. You know, like you look at Jason, he has like that supernatural deadite element to him. Michael Myers,
he's a Franken zombie. So
yeah. So I don't know.
I think that's one thing that we need to mention is that, and we didn't touch on it here, but this whole Sienna character, her father drawing the sketches, and he gives her this sword. And it's so blatantly obvious that the sword is going to play a bigger part in the movie once she has this dream where she sees this kind of clown, I don't know, food truck, for lack of a better term. And it starts this fire in her real life. Like, so in her dream, she sees this thing, Art comes and does he Tommy gun a bunch of people basically and blow them away?
And Tommy guns a bunch of people, then uses the flamethrower to kill the girl, and shoots the flamethrower at her. She deflects it with the sword and then lights her room up.
So the sword becomes very early on. It becomes this kind of almost a MacGuffin, but it has like there's a real property to it that you know that it's going to become this thing that helps defeat Art later on.
Yes.
But it's this thing that her dad like bequeathed onto her. So I guess that kind of feeds along into that.
He probably got it at a flea market.
No, probably. He went to Gibraltar or someplace and got
There's one up the road from here that sells swords like that. I could get it for like $15.
Is that the Dixieland?
Yes.
But so the sword becomes, clearly it's going to be something, but it becomes like the, I don't know, Excalibur basically. But it's like this little dinky short sword too. Like
it is a little thing, like one you'd pull out of your boot. I feel
Right.
like the absolute.
Right.
Make it like some two-handed thing,
Yeah.
make it impressive.
Yeah. But like, you're right. And now that you say that kind of is just annoying too, is like that whole aspect of it. And like, I don't know. I just wish that they, now that I'm thinking about it.
I love introducing this doubt into you about this movie that you clearly love. And I'm like, I don't want to tear it down.
I still do. I still love it just because like the point that you're making about like the over gore in the movie and stuff. I just feel like that's like for me for like elevated horror, like the movies where you just get these like traumatic thing happens and you see it. And then it's like throughout the whole movie, it's these little innuendos, the symbolism of like grief and like Midsummer and Hereditary. It's just like, can I just get like a fucking slasher movie with boobs and like a killer and bad acting? Like, can we just get that back? So like that's to me, like elevated horror is, I feel like it's just so much thought and I don't want to think and I don't want to think about other people's problems because I want to not think about my problems. When I watch Terrifier, I love it because it's just ridiculous and it doesn't make too much sense. But now that we're talking about sword and all this stuff, I'm like, don't make me think. I don't.
This show has never claimed to make anyone think. So
Yeah.
But
No, if anything, we take that away. I would agree with you. And that's my biggest like drawback with this movie is that for a 2.5 hour movie to leave the movie with more questions than you came into it with, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
To actually have really, aside from the only question that I feel like was answered from both these movies at this point is something supernatural going on with Art, which is a resounding yes. Like obviously there's nothing natural about that thing, but past that, like I don't know shit about shit. There's, of course you could like dabble around on the internet and you can have all these people who say, this is what happened in this movie. I'm like, is it though?
Yeah.
Is it though?
Mm-hmm. Because there's so many people that know like this is exactly what this is. And there's nothing else to it. And like, I felt like there was so many fan things circulating and Damien was just like, no, it's, and then he finally said it in like the live on Twitter that it's more of like a biblical meaning. And
yeah, that bothers me because I don't like biblical, but
yeah,
John's a hardcore Christian. He doesn't like anybody rivaling the big JC. Art the Clown, the new JC.
you don't fuck with
Talk
Jesus.
about blasphemy. Jesus Christ.
That's right.
Oh, sorry. Jesus, sorry. Can I ask a question of this esteemed panel of two people that seem like they like the movie a lot more than I did? How did Art get his eye back?
He took it from the
he took it at the
guy.
beginning of the movie.
But he spit it out.
But
he won't.
no, he put it back in.
Yeah,
He put it in and goes with a happy face.
Yeah, but then he took it. He didn't like it.
I don't believe so.
I think he took it and I think he was like staring at it. Did he?
He dropped it on the ground, and the last time you see it, it's just the eye with the vein or whatever, the nerve or whatever it is that's like hanging off of it.
When I watched it the other day, he put it back in.
I thought he put it back in too.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yes.
Big question. This whole movie, the linchpin of this movie is what did he do with that eyeball? Yeah. At least I only have to watch like 5 minutes to figure it out.
It's true.
You really don't, because I could just answer, well, if he can heal a gunshot wound to his head, he can surely heal an eyeball.
I don't like that answer.
That's now Sean wanted.
This has to be answered in movie.
Sorry. Okay.
I have to see
There's
it,
two answers.
or it doesn't exist.
You just have to watch it, the whole movie again, Sean. Tonight you have to watch 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh
of
my God.
Terrifier, okay, you're just gonna add that to your wasted minutes.
I have so many other things I want to watch tonight.
That makes me excited. I want to go watch it now, just as like my guilty pleasure. Like that's what I'm gonna watch after we get done.
Sean, this is what happened to the eye. This is how we got his eye back.
I'll send it to you.
I am not going to watch this when we get done. I'm going to go watch Star Slammer, because that movie has
Boobs.
weird prison monsters.
Oh, sorry.
It has that.
Yeah.
It also has boobs. So yeah. Anyway, that's my biggest complaint about this movie is just that it's for what you get more questions than you started with. And that's really unsatisfying if you do go to a movie for story, which I'm all for. Like, if we're going to have a movie that's devoid of plot, fine. Fuck the plot. I don't need it. I'm fine with watching a 2 hour just like shit show of shit, if that's what it's going to be. But don't try to like weave some plot in there. Just if you know you're going to just do the no plot thing, own it. That's what they did in the first movie. Do it again.
And he did great. I think he did such a good job doing a no plot, like a horror movie. Like it's just, I don't know. I wish you would. I'm not going to say anymore. I love both of them. So I'm not saying anything else.
Damien's
We're
listening.
gonna get you to talk. We're gonna get you to talk yourself out of loving this movie so much.
Never.
Well, I didn't mean to play that.
Never gonna happen.
I don't know that there's a whole ton we need to touch on. So for those who are listening to this, there is a very weird live stream that we did that is available on our YouTube channel, which kind of covers
Don't do it.
hit and miss on some other stuff. So if you really need more of us talking about it, we can go back there, unless we have anything we want to kind of touch on right now.
The completionists can go back and watch the live stream, but
I'm
All four of
saying
them.
please don't, because I fuck it all up. So don't watch it, but do it. Watch it for them. Give them the views, and just don't even think that I'm there, because I'm not.
You're the star of the show. I don't know what you're talking about. So, all right, Jordana, why don't you lead us off? You can rate this however you want. Of course, we usually do the hot dog scale, but you are not required to if you don't want to. Tell us what you thought about the, just lead us into finishing off this movie.
For me, it's a 10 out of motherfucking 10 wieners. Even with my wheels turning on this goddamn sword, I still love this movie. It's Jordana approved. I love it. It's such a love note to the horror genre. I feel like it's a revival in horror for like the slasher lovers, and I just love it. So 10 wieners with mustard and relish and onions. No ketchup.
Sean, go on your rant. How do you feel about this?
I'm going to just start out by saying Terrifier 2 didn't win me over. If you go back and listen to what I had to say about the original movie, for me, the movie's just kind of more of the same. I mean, they do add a little bit more of that story element, but iconic slasher movies, you start, like I mentioned earlier, you start to root for the bad guy. You start to root for Jason. You root for Michael. You root for Freddy. You root for even Chucky. I mean, John could probably even root for Chucky a little bit. He's shaking his head no, but, you know, I mean, this is maybe because this is only
the fireplace.
Yeah, the closet. This is only the second movie or installment in the franchise, I guess. I mean, we won't include any kind of shorts or anything where Art kind of shows up as a tertiary character. But even if the character was developed at all beyond this, I don't think for me personally, I could root for Art, because as kind of the MO for the show, I can't get behind a clown. I don't think it's all bad. I think that even at 2 hours and 18 minutes, the pacing is pretty good until we get to that kind of final confrontation. We've talked about that. When I saw that this movie was 2 hours and 18 minutes, I was really not looking forward to watching it, but it does really move along pretty well, just right up until the end. I got to give props again to the effects. There weren't a lot of digital effects. If there were any, they were really imperceptible. If you're a big practical effect person, this is a really good movie to watch, just because there is so much kind of gore. There is so much effects that are going on. Again, David Howard Thornton really steals the show. He makes this character come alive with not speaking a single sound. There's no sound that comes from Art that's not like a squishy, I don't know, head getting splattered or something to that effect. So big kudos for that. Just like the first movie, for me, it still feels like this one's trying to be, I don't know, edgelord as possible. I wasn't horrified because it's a clown. I was more annoyed than anything else, but I gotta, just like the first movie, gotta give this one 5 skull candy bowls out of 11 hot dogs.
Sean, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And I don't want to interrupt, but I've been dying to ask you this question the whole time.
Yeah.
And that was perfect intro to it. But so if, let's say that Art was not a clown. Let's say Damien created like a different, maybe like a dude in coveralls with like an alien mask, or like a different slasher mask. Do you think he would like it?
Perhaps a William Shatner mask.
Yeah.
You know, to be perfectly honest, like, I think I might like it more.
I just was wondering, because if it, like, your hatred of clowns, if it was
it clouds a lot of it.
Yeah,
it does. I mean, I think like if this was like, I don't know, don't steal this idea, anybody out in Hollywood. We've rewritten so many like plot lines and stuff for Hollywood that they could make like $1 zillion. They would have like so many more dollars than could even be calculated by banks.
Yeah, I think they'd make like $70, but okay.
$70 gazillion is more like it. But if this was just like 70. A guy in a diaper with a, I don't know, like a Roger Rabbit mask or something, and he was killing these people, and I don't know, I think it would probably be less annoying. I think that with just it being a clown, I'm just predispositioned to be annoyed by anything that's clown. Like I'm not like a person that sees a clown out in regular everyday like stuff in the world. Not that that ever happens, but if I
it just happened last week and you got pissed off. Ooh. There was a clown outside we were walking over to that concert and there was a clown outside that bar and you started swearing like from a block away.
I can just visualize this whole fucking encounter.
I don't know if that actually happened or not at this point.
That did actually happen. You were pissed off, and it was quite
Where was
humorous.
this clown?
We were in Ferndale. We were going over to that concert last week, and they were in front of the bar as some bachelor party or something was letting out.
Oh, it was somebody.
You just started.
So, Jordana, there was a person in a like red afro wig.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a clown. And I did.
From like a block away. He's like, this
I saw
fucking
it,
clown
yeah.
over here. And
Look at that fucking clown. I can't walk by that thing. I can't walk by it. I can't do it.
Just like Bachelorette. Bachelorette
Yeah,
party
that's what it
hanging out.
was. Yeah, it was just,
love it.
it was like some 70s themed bachelorette party or something.
Yeah.
So
Sean's
we
over here
can't walk on
harassing
that.
him.
I said, we can't walk. No, I said, I'm not that person, but I was like, but I'm this person. I said, we can't walk next to that. We can't
we did
can't
have
walk
to.
anywhere
We
near
did
them.
go to the other side of the street.
Yeah,
So,
and then cut back over.
But now that
Yeah.
you've said that about not see and everyday life, you're going to wake up tomorrow, you're going to go do something, you're going to see a fucking clown. You just
Probably.
like totally jinxed yourself and you're going to see a clown.
Oh, God damn it.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, honestly. If this was, you would have to totally redo this movie for it not to be a clown. I mean, like a mute person. It would have to be a totally different costume kind of orientation because, like we said, Michael, Jason, they don't talk.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's several others that don't. Most of them don't. I think Freddie and I guess Chucky, for
Leatherface.
lack of another role model. That's a loaded thing too. But like there's not another character that really talks. Like those are the two that talk the most.
Yeah.
So I think if you inserted like a Michael or a Jason, I probably wouldn't have as much of an issue. But it would also fall under a different franchise where you kind of expect things to be a way that it is. So I guess it's a hard question to answer, but I think if it was a different one, I probably wouldn't be nearly as annoyed if there was some kind of like pushback against the character,
I thought about it the whole time that we talked about it because like even when you're talking about the negatives, but in like a positive sense, I was thinking if this was not a clown, would you enjoy it or would it be less, abrasive? Like would you actually be able to
yeah.
yeah.
To be perfectly like 100%, I think that, yeah, it would make a huge difference for me.
What if it was a cocaine bear?
That's a bad example. The cocaine bear, the bear itself was like, I don't know.
Not practical effects.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I mean, if we had a guy in a shitty bear costume, that would just be hilarious. If this was like the Conan O'Brien masturbating bear or whatever. If the masturbating bear was to kill all these people, I would hope it would have some kind of correlation to masturbation, but that would be amazing.
Or put like a dude that's on cocaine in the bear costume and have him go fucking crazy in fucking bear costume.
We could have Fat Guy Goes Nutsoid in this as the killer. No, but I do. That's a good question. I think that if it was like any other slasher icon, if this was just some kind of iteration on that, and even doing the same thing, like doing the same kills, doing the same actions, doing
Everything
the
the
same
same.
prowling, and everything was exactly the same, but you just literally do some kind of character swap. I think that would be, I would probably prefer that. I mean, I would probably, this movie, because of, again, the practical effects are so on point.
Yeah.
That this would be an amazing side story or even like mainline movie for all these other franchises. And it would, I think I would probably be like, this is great. But I think there are these kind of gore porn elements that just go a little bit too over the top for me. Like, I think the mashed potato scene is really amazing. Like, I think it's really good, but I think the one day old Jonathan just doesn't sell it hard enough. Like, I don't think he can understand as a character that this is his mother. But if it was like somebody saw that, you would walk towards it.
Give him a break.
But like, did you see like his mouth? He's like, oh, and it's like curling, and he's just like standing there, like.
I think if it much like, again, getting a little, well, not again, but getting a little too personal on my end, like walking in on your parents, like doing it, you kind of have to, you're not quite sure what's going on. You're like, you're analyzing it. Your brain's kind of pause. Like if someone dies and someone close to you and you're like, you can't fully absorb what's actually going on.
Yeah.
But because if it was like Jason smashing mashed potatoes and that's a great picture. But if Jason's smashing mashed potatoes into somebody's head and a sibling or a offspring of that person walks in, that would be totally like that would be a total what the fuck scene.
Yeah.
But because it's art, it's kind of like you just kind of expect it, and it's like, oh man, if this was a different character, it would make a big difference, I think, for me.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, like when he walked out with the bell and he's ringing it and Jonathan He literally walks by Jonathan and Jonathan just stands there. If I saw my mother's head blown off and a clown with a fucking dinner bell came out, I'd be like, I'd be out the goddamn door. Like, I love you, Mom, but like, I'm not about to get killed. Well, you did by this crazy ass clown.
Yeah, not that much.
You know? Like,
Love you, Mom. Not that much. See you.
It's already done.
Peace.
So I also would like this movie more if it was Jason instead of Art, but that probably goes without saying.
Yes.
As far as on the hot dog scale, though, I'm kind of right in the middle between the two of you, kind of like previously. I'm at 7.5 mutilated, but still alive and breathing hot dogs out of 10. I think ultimately the movie's a solid film for both this franchise and really for the genre as a whole. It's going to bring people back to the genre one way or another. And it's making people talk about horror. And it's not just, it's a worthy movie to make people talk about this genre. Not to say that, like, I understand people love the movie X and people love Black Phone and whatever else came out last year, but this movie is a legit horror movie. Those movies, to an extent they are, but to an extent they kind of suck.
Mm-hmm.
So, for all this movie's warts, which I think, depending on which one of us you ask, there's plenty of them. This is a horror movie, and it's great to see it getting this kind of traction. It's great to see a movie with a $250,000 budget make millions of dollars. I think the last time I saw this was around 10 million that it grossed. It's probably been more than that, though, because I haven't looked in months. I think the biggest thing this movie can do is kind of help put that needle in the arm, or, well, maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but, try to pump up the genre so we get some more weird experimental movies coming out of it that actually can have a little bit of a budget thrown at and turn a profit. Like we've all said, the effects in this are awesome, even if they go a little, not necessarily too far, but it is a little extreme at times. It's gnarly, it's raunchy, it kind of smells bad, even though you can't really smell anything. It just looks like it smells bad.
Yes.
I just hope when we get the third movie that one, there's some kind of explanation to whatever the fuck is going on in these two movies, because that hasn't happened yet. And two, that, Lauren LaVera is in every movie going forward, whether it's this or anything else, because she kicks ass and should be in more movies. So
Totally agree.
I think it's a good point that this, I feel like 3 has to be the one where story starts to become a little bit more paramount, because I don't think, as much as people like to just see special effects kind of showcases, there has to be some substance behind like what's going on, or they're going to start losing people that are hardcore. Like, we have one person here that's hardcore into it. Do you think you could put up with another movie with like no story payoff?
No,
resounding yes.
I would be super annoyed. I would be very, very annoyed. Like, I wouldn't lose hope, because out of, like John said, like with X coming out and like all those movies that mainstream everyone seems to love, I hated X. I don't see any of the allure of the movies that have come out that everyone, like Pearl, any of that. It's not for me. This one, I would be super.
I didn't even see Pearl.
I started it and I stopped it just because I don't even care about it at all. But I would be super bummed. I don't think I would give up so easily, but I would be very annoyed if we did not get some answers. And I think even too, I'll say this, if we get answers, but then it goes into this other like cliffhanger, for this one, I would be annoyed. Like, let's just either find your pacing, find what you're going for, answer the question, give us the answers, and like, let's move on and let's progress, or just call it a day. And that's the other thing too that I'm worried about, is that it's going to go on and on and on, and then it's going to lose its traction and it's street cred, and people are just going to be like, okay, whatever. And
it's an interesting dilemma because they'll have to face it, because that's another thing that's common with slashers. You don't get one of these movies, you get fucking 15 of them or whatever.
Yes.
And with most of them, once you get past the first 3, they tend to go a little bit off the rails. Some of them much earlier than that, some of them a little bit later, but you don't usually get more than, realistically, you don't usually get more than one movie that's really grounded. And then if you get 2 that are actually connected well, but immediately next to each other, it's rare. So it will be interesting to see if one, like you mentioned, if he can tie all this shit together somehow in one movie. And I don't think anyone in their right mind, whenever Terrifier 3 comes out, I can tell you right now, whatever they do in that movie, it's going to end on some kind of flip, because they're going to leave the possibility open for more money. Not even more movies, just more money. I think we should have a pretty good idea of what the fuck is going on between Sienna, Art, and why the 2 of them apparently are mortal in some way, or kind of, whatever the fuck it is. So,
yeah.
But that's a story for like probably 12 years from now, whenever that comes out. So
let's not say that. I hope it's like 2 years max, because I want more. I want more art.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see something by the end of the year. Or
well, he's already announced it.
Yeah.
Like but I would think you would want to capitalize on the momentum that you have if you could. I know the pandemic pushed this movie back by about 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Because I saw something with DHT and Damien talking where it was supposed to come out in early 2020. Well, obviously shit happened. So yeah, I think it would be ideal. If they really want to capitalize on it, get out within the next year or two. And that would be probably a good thing.
It seems like I hope he sticks to it, because Damien feels like genuine, like it's coming from a place of his love and appreciation from horror. Like if you hear his backstory and like, you know, his mom bought him a special effects kit when he was like, I don't know what age, but like super young. And he just, you know, his mom would take him to the movies and see horror movies. And that's
-6.
Yeah. When she was 6 months pregnant, she bought the special effects and he started doing it in the womb. But I just hope that he stays true to himself. He doesn't sell out and do like a David Gordon Green take on Halloween and just completely fuck it all up and like go off the rails. I shouldn't say that because I know that you guys enjoyed it, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh no, it's off the rails, but you're not going to piss us off. You can go ahead and say whatever you want about it.
Yeah. But I mean, just because I like respect you guys and your opinions on it. So it's not that it was his like a bad take on it, but I just hope that he doesn't lose sight of what propelled him to where he is now. Like he already had a cameo in fucking Pete Davidson's show, Butt Kiss or Poughkeepsie or whatever the fuck it's called. I hate Pete Davidson. So when I saw that, I was like, no.
I don't understand why so many people like Pete Davidson.
I don't either.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, so. I won't go on that tangent, but I just, you know what I mean? Like when I saw that happen, I was like, oh God, like no, don't do it.
Okay, so we have now talked Terrifier into death. We're kind of approaching the runtime of just the final scene of Terrifier. So we're going to start to wrap around into some housekeeping stuff that we do around here. We had a question of the week last week, which is a pretty simple one. Last week's question of the week is, what is your favorite foreign film? Neither of us answered last week, but we did get answers from you, the faithful, maybe questionable listeners. So our first response is from Blood and Feathers 87 on Instagram. You can follow him. He seems like a good guy. He is a good guy. I haven't met him, but he's nice to talk to.
Love the preface on that one. Seems like a good guy.
Yeah, maybe.
You can edit this out, but I have questions. So anyway, he says it's going to have to be 5 Elements Ninjas for me, or 5 Elements Ninjas for me. It stumbled on this yesterday too, because it's a weird sentence, a weird title. But Sean, you know some of the martial arts movies. Are you familiar with that one or no?
No. Is that like a Mortal Kombat thing?
Sure. Doom Generation Pod responded with City of Lost Children. Again, I've not heard of this movie. I'm really bad at foreign films.
Ron Perlman.
Oh, yes.
Ron Perlman.
Yes. Hellboy, Sons of Anarchy, dipshit.
Beauty and the Beast.
All right. So our friends over at Podcast in the Woods said Juan the Curse. Apparently there's like 40 of those movies and I had no fucking clue, but apparently The Curse is the best of them. The wonderful person that made us watch Deerskin last week gave us about 9 responses. For the sake of the show, according to her, Ebony061 said for Japanese, Audition, for French, Martyrs, South Korean, Between Hosts / Two Sisters. I'm still not sure if that's 1 movie or 2 movies.
What nation? Country?
South Korea.
What's the name again?
Host?
Between Host / Two Sisters.
Yeah, Host is a movie. Is its own singular thing.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
That's a great movie, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen it. So Swedish is Let the Right One In. Austrian is Goodnight Mommy. Turkish is Baskin. Spanish is The Skin I Live In. And Thai is Shutter. Not the channel, the movie. And then arguably the best answer to this question is the notorious DRO, or Dr. Owens 901 on Twitter, said Strange Brew. I'm jealous I didn't get that. My answer to this is the South Korean film City of Violence, which was a martial arts movie that's just all over the place and got a lot of crazy like camera work and lighting and shit like that. It is credited for being the major influence for Kill Bill. So if you like Kill Bill, that one's worth hunting down and find. Jordana, do you have a favorite foreign film?
Yes, I do. And now I think of it, Train to Busan is top contender, and Speak No Evil, that was on Shudder. That one was extremely fucked and rattled my soul. So, yeah, those are
I
my,
like it.
yes.
Sean, ask her the question. What is your favorite foreign film?
Has anyone here seen a Serbian film?
No.
Oh,
read
It's
it.
not that.
All right. Well, that's not my favorite, but that would be probably one of my least favorite foreign films that I've ever seen. For me, I think Old Boy, the original Old Boy by Chan-wook Park, is probably my favorite foreign film. It's a really good revenge style flick. There's like a trilogy of movies called the Vengeance Trilogy. It's like Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and I think Lady Vengeance is the second one. Old Boy is the third. It's the final one of the series. It's a really good one. Spike Lee remade it.
I see that 2013.
Yeah.
That movie, the 2013 one, like bombed really hard, didn't it?
Yeah.
So,
It's no Black
all right.
Klansman, that's for sure.
I never saw that either.
That's
Doesn't that have-
good. Yeah. I mean, it's not a foreign
Is it?
film, but
Okay. Sean, what's the question for this week coming up?
the new question of the week: who is your favorite or least favorite movie clown?
Okay. So if you really want to get through,
Okay.
if you really want to get through that live stream, we all answered on there, but we'll save that for next week. So Jordana, lead us off. Plug everything you got to plug. Tell us where people can find you, where they should find you. If you don't listen to her, then you suck. But please tell people where they can find everything you're doing.
Well, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I have a YouTube channel now, and you can find Feature Creatures and Pretty Killer Podcast on Spotify. I think Feature Creatures is all streaming platforms. I'm not so hip to that yet, so hopefully soon. And yeah.
Perfect. Sean, and you know what? I'm going backwards. So for us, for the Dewey Pod Monster podcast, you can find us on every social media platform in existence, for better or worse. We are always at Dewey Pod Monster. You can send us messages there. We might or might not read them. Apparently, you can send us feedback on this episode somehow. I don't exactly know how to do it, but you can. People have before. And of course, you can find all our previous episodes, including the talk we had about the first Terrifier movie. If you really want to hear Sean get pissed off at clowns, go back, listen to the Killer Clowns in Outer Space episode. That is just podcasting at its best. And then above all else, Sean, where can people find your other projects?
If you're interested in Michigan craft beer, you can find out more about that at youtube.drafttherapy.com, where I talk to some people, I guess, about Michigan craft beer. Reviewed a lot of beers there, probably 500 different beers from just inside the state of Michigan. On the social media, if you're interested, you can find me at Draft Therapy.
All right. I think that's all we got for this week. So until next week, House About Clowns, keep Sean pissed off, and we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.